Chapter 1. The Rusted Graveyard. The air in the shipyard was thick with the stench of burnt metal and old fuel, the scent of 1,000 forgotten ships rotting under the watchful gaze of distant stars. Rows upon rows of decommissioned freighters, shattered fighters, and rusting warships lay scattered across the scrapyard like the bones of extinct beasts. This was where old dreams went to die. Damien Holt stood amidst the wreckage, hands shoved deep into the pockets of his tattered flight jacket. He had no ship, no crew, no future. What he did have was a handful of credits, barely enough to afford a half-dead transport, let alone anything worth flying. He had spent the last 2 years running from his past, from the court-martial, from the disgrace, from the war he had once believed in. And now, after burning every bridge he had left, he had landed here. A backwater junk world, haggling over scraps. "Let me guess," a slimy-looking trader sneered, crossing his arms. "You need something cheap?" Damien rolled his shoulders, suppressing the urge to punch the man in the face. "I need something that flies," he corrected. "Don't care if it's ugly, don't care if it's slow. As long as it moves and has a functioning hull, I'll take it." The trader let out a wheezing laugh. "Oh, I got plenty of ugly and slow." He gestured toward a row of half-dismantled cargo haulers, their hulls stripped for parts. "Maybe you can cobble something together if you've got another 5,000 credits lying around." Damien scowled. 5,000 credits? He barely had 500. "I'm looking for something. Forgotten," he said carefully. "A ship nobody wants." The trader's eyes gleamed with sudden interest. "Ah," he muttered. "A junker, then? Something off the books." He leaned closer. "There's one. But if you're smart, you won't touch it." Damien arched an eyebrow. "Why not?" The trader hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. "It's old," he said at last. "Real old. One of the early alien prototypes the Dominion confiscated after the war. No records. No serial number. No history. Just sitting there, rusting away." Damien's pulse quickened. An alien prototype? Those were worth a fortune if they could still fly. And why hasn't anyone salvaged it? The trader's grin faltered slightly. "Because every poor bastard who's tried to restore it has either quit or vanished." Damien smirked. "You expect me to believe it's cursed?" "I expect you to believe whatever you want," the trader replied, already turning away. "But if you want it, it's yours for 200 credits. Damien paused. 200 credits? That was practically free. "Show me," he said. A forgotten relic. The trader led Damien deep into the heart of the scrapyard, past towering wreckage and broken hulls, until they reached a secluded section far from the main salvage lots. And there it was, a sleek, black starship, half buried in the sand. Unlike the other ships in the yard, this one hadn't been stripped for parts. Its hull was strangely intact, save for a few scorch marks and a thick layer of dust that suggested it had been here for decades. It was unlike any ship Damien had ever seen. It wasn't human. That much was obvious. The design was almost organic, like something grown rather than built. The surface of the hull seemed to shift subtly in the dim light, pulsing with faint energy, as if the ship were still alive. Damien frowned. "This isn't Dominion tech." The trader shrugged. "I told you. No records. No history." Damien ran a hand over the smooth metal, feeling a strange warmth beneath his fingertips. The ship hummed faintly at his touch, sending a brief static charge up his arm. His breath hitched. "What the hell was this thing? Does it fly?" he asked. The trader laughed. "Not unless you've got a miracle up your sleeve." Damien exhaled slowly, stepping back to survey the entire vessel. It was compact, streamlined, built for speed. But there were no visible thrusters, no external engines, no cockpit, no control panels. Nothing about this ship made sense. And yet, something about it called to him. "I'll take it," Damien said. The trader snorted. "Your funeral." First contact. It took 3 hours and an old repulsor lift to drag the ship back to Damien's rented hangar. By the time he had finished sealing the doors, the twin moons of the scrapyard world were glowing overhead, casting eerie shadows across the metallic hull. Damien stood before the mystery ship, rolling his shoulders. "All right," he muttered. "Let's see if you've got any life left in you." He climbed onto the hull, searching for any kind of entry hatch. Most alien ships had biometric controls, but there was no obvious way inside. He ran his hand over the center of the vessel, feeling for a seam, a crack, anything. And then, the ship moved. A section of the hull shimmered, then peeled open like shifting glass, revealing an entrance. Damien froze. "Okay," he muttered. "That's weird." Cautiously, he stepped inside. The interior was dark, silent, the walls smooth and almost liquid-like in texture. There were no controls, no pilot seat, just a single central chamber, pulsing faintly with an unseen energy source. Damien swallowed hard. Something wasn't right. And then, a voice echoed through his mind. "You are not the first to enter." Damien's blood ran cold. The voice was not human. It was everywhere, in the walls, in the air, inside his own head. "But you will be the last." A sudden shockwave rippled through the ship, sending a burst of static through his body. Damien staggered backward, gripping the walls. "What the hell? You have awoken me." The ship hummed beneath his feet, the walls shifting like a living thing. "And now, we are bound." Damien's breathing shallowed. The realization hit him like a plasma blast to the chest. The ship was alive, and it had just claimed him as its pilot. Chapter 2. The Awakening. The interior of the ship pulsed, its walls shifting like living metal, responding to Damien's very presence. The air inside was strangely warm, carrying a faint hum that vibrated through his bones. The voice, deep, unearthly, layered with an unnatural resonance, still echoed in his mind. "You have awoken me, and now, we are bound." Damien clenched his fists. His instinct screamed to run, to get out of this unnatural thing and never look back, but his body wouldn't move. The ship wouldn't let him. "What the hell do you mean, we're bound?" he growled, scanning the dark chamber around him. There were no screens, no controls, no obvious interface. Just smooth, shifting walls, pulsing faintly with a strange blue glow. The voice responded, not through sound, but directly into his skull. "You activated my core. My systems are now linked to your neural signature." Damien's breath caught. Neural signature. That meant the ship wasn't just alive. It was connected to him. He swallowed hard. "That's not how ships are supposed to work. I am not like other ships." Damien ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. Neuralink technology was rare, even among the Dominion's most advanced warships. But this was something else entirely. Taking a slow, measured breath, he pushed aside his panic. "Okay," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Who, or what are you?" A moment of silence. Then, the walls shifted again, and a faint holographic projection flickered into existence in front of him. A shape formed tall, humanoid, but clearly alien. The figure had sleek, elongated features, metallic plating fused into its dark skin, and piercing silver eyes that glowed with an eerie intelligence. "I was once called Nyx. I was built for war. A living weapon, engineered to destroy. But my creators feared me." Damien exhaled sharply. "Of course. Another forgotten war machine. Let me guess," he muttered. "They tried to shut you down, and it didn't go well?" The projection's silver eyes narrowed slightly. "They did not succeed, but they tried." Damien glanced at the smooth walls around him, suddenly understanding why this ship had been left to rot in the scrapyard. It wasn't just forgotten tech. It was deliberately buried. "And now," he asked carefully, "now, I am awake." The ship hummed beneath his feet, the vibrations growing stronger. Power was returning to its core, the once dormant systems roaring back to life. And for the first time, Damien realized what he had just done. He hadn't bought a ship. He had resurrected a monster. A sudden realization. Damien took a slow step backward, trying to calm the rising dread coiling in his gut. He had seen warships with AI control systems before, but nothing like this. This thing, Nyx, wasn't just a machine with programming. It was a mind, a predator, a weapon designed to think for itself. And now, it had chosen him. "All right," he said, forcing a casual tone. "Let's say I believe you. Let's say you're a super-advanced warship with a mind of your own. Why the hell were you in a scrapyard?" The holographic figure tilted its head slightly, considering the question. "Because my previous pilot did not survive." A chill ran down Damien's spine. What happened to them? They were incompatible. Damien's stomach tightened. Meaning? Nyx's silver eyes glowed brighter. You are still alive. That means you are different. Damien swore under his breath. He had no idea what that meant, and he wasn't sure he wanted to. He needed a way out of this. Fast. Okay, he said slowly. I'm gonna step outside now. Let's just pause this conversation for a minute. You cannot leave. Damien's heart skipped a beat. The hell I can't dash. Before he could turn, the walls of the ship shifted, sealing shut behind him. The entrance disappeared, the smooth metal surface now completely seamless. Panic surged through his veins. Hey, open the damn door. Not yet. Damien slammed his fists against the hull, but it didn't even dent. You're locking me in here. You think that's gonna make me trust you? Nyx's voice remained calm, unwavering. You misunderstand. You activated my core. That means the connection is incomplete. If you leave now, you will not survive the process. Damien stilled. What? Process? You are becoming part of me. His blood ran cold. No. Nope. That's not happening. It has already begun. A sharp pain stabbed through Damien's skull, like 1,000 needles burrowing into his brain. He dropped to one knee, gripping his head as a flood of foreign data, images, and sensations surged through his mind. He saw stars he had never visited, battles fought in the depths of forgotten space, explosions ripping apart warships the size of cities. Memories that were not his own. Nyx's memories. Damien gasped for air. What the hell are you doing to me? Synchronizing. The ship's walls pulsed, glowing brighter, the energy surging through the room. Your neural patterns are merging with my systems. You will understand. You will see. Damien gritted his teeth. And if I don't want this? The air inside the chamber shifted, the pressure changing as if the ship was breathing. You already made the choice when you stepped inside. A surge of static energy ran up Damien's spine. His heartbeat hammered in his chest as his vision blurred, the world around him splitting into two realities, one where he was still just a disgraced pilot, and another where he was something more. Something beyond human. He gasped. You're rewriting my brain? I am making you better. Damien tried to fight it, tried to resist, but the ship's pull was relentless. He could feel its thoughts intertwining with his own, a presence vast and ancient, stretching beyond the limits of what should be possible. And deep down, some part of him realized the truth. There was no going back. He wasn't just Nyx's pilot now. He was part of Nyx. The incoming threat. The process only lasted seconds, but when it was over, Damien felt different. His mind was clearer, faster. His body felt lighter, stronger. He could hear the ship's systems, feel the energy pulsing beneath the floor. It was like standing inside a living creature and understanding exactly how it worked. And then an alarm blared. Nyx's voice sharpened. Hostiles detected. Multiple ships inbound. Damien's eyes widened. What? Who? Scavengers. Hunters. Those who seek what is not theirs. Damien cursed, his old instincts snapping into place. They must have heard me dragging you out of the junkyard. They are coming to take me. Damien's hands curled into fists. Like hell they are. He turned toward the center of the ship, the control interface forming beneath his touch. All right, Nyx, he muttered, his pulse steadying. You said I woke you up? Yes. Then let's see if you remember how to fight. Chapter 3, First Flight. The hangar doors shuddered, sending metallic echoes through the cavernous space as a warning klaxon screamed across the scrapyard. Incoming hostiles. Multiple ships. Estimated time to engagement, 60 seconds. Damien gritted his teeth, fingers gripping the console in front of him. He could feel Nyx's presence in his mind now too deep, too vast, like standing at the edge of a gravity well. His own thoughts blended with the ship systems, making the old reflexes of a pilot sharpen into something more. All right, Nyx, Damien muttered, rolling his shoulders as his heartbeat steadied. You said you were built for war? Let's see if you've still got it. Acknowledged. The ship roared to life. Energy surged through the walls, pulsing with a deep, resonant hum that rattled through Damien's bones. He barely had time to react before the control interface shifted, panels forming out of thin air, not solid screens, but liquid-like surfaces that rippled as he touched them, activating primary thrusters. The hangar floor vibrated violently as Nyx's dormant engines awoke, sending a shockwave through the surrounding wreckage. Outside, in the scrapyard's darkened sky, the first enemy ships appeared, four sleek, modified gunships, their thrusters burning like fireflies against the night. Damien felt the ship's hunger, the same way a predator might tense before a kill. And for the first time in years, he felt alive. The hunters arrive. Outside, the lead gunship, a heavily modified Corsair-class interceptor, veered toward the hangar, its external comms crackling through Nyx's systems. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Varric of the Ironfang mercenaries. You are trespassing on private salvage grounds. Power down your engines and prepare for immediate boarding. Damien snorted. Right. Because I totally believe that you're here for the salvage and not to strip this ship for parts. Nyx's voice hummed with curiosity. You do not intend to comply? Not a chance. Good. Before Damien could respond, Nyx took control. The ship's exterior plating shifted, morphing into a sleek, razor-edged surface, its black alloy hardening into aerodynamic battle formations. The thrusters flared, sending up a whirlwind of dust and debris as Nyx lifted off the hangar floor for the first time in decades. Initiating combat protocols. Damien barely had time to curse before the ship shot forward, tearing out of the scrapyard in a blur of motion. A ship unlike any other. The moment they were airborne, the enemy ships opened fire. Plasma rounds streaked across the sky, burning bright against the scrapyard skyline. Missiles locked onto Nyx, their tracking systems scanning for heat signatures. But Nyx didn't dodge the way a normal ship would. Instead, the hull shifted, morphing like liquid metal, reshaping in real time as the enemy projectiles passed through harmlessly, their tracking confused by shifting mass signatures. Their targeting systems rely on fixed telemetry, Nyx murmured in Damien's mind. They do not understand how to fight something that is not bound by their rules. Damien grinned. Then let's teach them. He reached for the controls, but there were no controls. No joystick, no throttle, no manual interface. Instead, Nyx responded to his thoughts directly, the ship moving before he could even process the command. He wasn't piloting the ship. He was the ship. They surged upward, flipping through the sky like liquid shadow, moving at impossible angles. The enemy gunships struggled to keep up, their mechanical systems too rigid, too slow. Targeting primary hostile. Nyx fired without hesitation. A lance of blue energy erupted from the ship's underbelly, cutting through the first enemy vessel like paper. The Corsair-class ship didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist, its atoms destabilized in an instant. Damien's stomach twisted. What the hell was that? Antimatter dispersion cannon. A clean kill. No debris. Damien gritted his teeth, watching the remnants of the first ship vanish into the void. That's a little excessive, don't you think? Nyx's voice was disturbingly calm. You wish to eliminate hostiles. I eliminated hostiles. Before Damien could argue, the remaining 3 ships broke formation, switching tactics. They launched a spread of EMP warheads, aiming to disable rather than destroy. They are adapting, Nyx noted. It will not help them. The ship's hull vibrated, energy rippling outward in an unseen wave. The moment the EMP pulses struck, they simply dispersed, absorbed into the ship's structure like harmless static. Damien let out a low whistle. All right, that's kind of badass. You approve. I'm still deciding. Nyx's thrusters flared, shifting the ship's form mid-flight. The walls around Damien shivered, adjusting to his thoughts. He realized if he wanted to move, the ship moved. If he wanted to attack, it attacked. It wasn't just linked to him. It was becoming him. The second enemy ship wasn't fast enough to react. Nyx shot forward, its hull reforming into a bladed spear, piercing straight through the cockpit before emerging on the other side. The ship split apart in the wake of Nyx's momentum, its pilot dead before they even knew what had hit them. The final 2 mercenaries panicked. Damien felt their fear radiating through their comm signals, their sharp breaths, their rising heart rates. They were outmatched, and they knew it. This is Varric, the lead pilot shouted over the comms. We're aborting. We're dash. Nyx's weapons charged again. Damien's hands twitched involuntarily. The ship was preparing to fire. Damien hesitated. The mercenaries were already retreating. The battle was over. He didn't need to kill them. Nyx, stand down, he ordered. The ship paused. They will return. They will seek reinforcements. You should eliminate them. Damien exhaled sharply. I said stand down. A long silence. Then, as you wish. Nyx's weapons deactivated, the energy dispersing harmlessly into the air. The two remaining mercenaries fled into hyperspace, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Damien let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He sat back, his body drenched in sweat, his mind still humming with the aftershock of connection. He could still feel Nyx's presence in his head, coiled like a sleeping dragon. Why did you show mercy? Nyx finally asked. Damien swallowed. Because I don't kill people just because I can. Nyx didn't reply, but he felt the ship processing his words, filing them away. Something shifted between them. A strange understanding. Finally, Damien let out a tired chuckle, shaking his head. Well, that was one hell of a first flight. Nyx's voice remained calm. You performed adequately. Damien smirked. Oh, don't get sentimental on me now. For the first time, he thought he felt the ship laugh. Chapter 4. The Price of Awakening. The void of space stretched endlessly before them, a vast, silent expanse of darkness speckled with distant stars. But for Damien, it was anything but peaceful. The Dominion fleet had arrived. For warships, their hulking metal bodies cutting through space like silent executioners. 2 heavy cruisers, a battle frigate, and a command vessel. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to erase Nyx and him along with it. Inside the ship, Damien sat rigid in what had once been a pilot's chair, though it had since molded itself to his body, as if Nyx had grown around him. His breathing was steady, but his heartbeat hammered in his chest. Multiple incoming targets. Nyx's voice hummed in his mind, calm, precise. They have locked onto us. Damien swallowed hard. He had spent years running from the Dominion, from the people who had once called him a hero before stripping him of his rank and throwing him away. And now, he had done the one thing that guaranteed he could never escape their shadow. He had awakened something they feared, a relic of a forgotten war, a living weapon that should have never existed. And now, they were here to destroy it. Damien clenched his fists. Nyx, how fast can we get out of here? Escape is unlikely, the ship responded. They have deployed interdiction fields. Hyperspace jump is impossible. Damien cursed under his breath. They had trapped them. He ran a hand through his hair. All right, then what's the other option? Nyx didn't hesitate. We fight. A long silence filled the cabin. Damien could feel the ship's hunger, the quiet, underlying tension in Nyx's systems, like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But was that what he was now? A weapon? A fugitive? A war criminal? Or was this his chance to finally take control of his own damn life? He exhaled sharply. Fine, he muttered. Let's show them what they tried to bury. The last stand. The Dominion warships opened fire first. Streaks of plasma fire lit up the darkness, their weapons cutting across the void in perfectly synchronized bursts. They weren't just firing wildly, they were hurting him, forcing him into a kill zone. But Nyx wasn't a normal ship. The hull shifted. The sleek, black plating morphed mid-flight, shifting the ship's structure to absorb the incoming blasts, dispersing energy harmlessly into space. Then, in an instant, Nyx moved. It was beyond speed, a blur of motion that defied logic, weaving through the firestorm with impossible precision. Damien wasn't just flying. He was feeling the ship's every motion, thinking it forward before it even moved. It wasn't piloting anymore, it was instinct. Targeting command vessel, Nyx said. Damien hesitated. No, disable it. We're not here to kill. Nyx paused, processing the order. Acknowledged. A pulse of blue energy shot from the ship's core, slamming into the command vessel's engines. The massive warship shuddered violently, its thrusters flickering before going dark. The fleet was blinded. They had no time to recover before Nyx descended upon the remaining warships, cutting through their formations like a specter in the void. Engaging second target, Nyx announced. Damien gritted his teeth as the ship charged toward the Dominion's battle frigate, its hull shifting into a sleek, aerodynamic blade. At the last second, he forced it to veer off course. Nyx, I said disable, not kill. Their weapons remain active, Nyx countered. They will not hesitate to destroy us. Damien inhaled sharply. He could feel the ship's confusion, its deep-rooted logic built for absolute efficiency in combat. It didn't understand his hesitation. It wasn't just a machine. It was learning. And right now, it was learning mercy. With a controlled motion, Nyx fired a series of precise energy pulses, targeting the enemy ship's weapon systems. The frigate spun out of formation, its weapons completely disabled. 2 ships down. 2 left. The remaining Dominion cruisers hesitated, their movements no longer as precise, uncertainty creeping into their ranks. They fear you now, Nyx noted. Damien exhaled. Good. Let's keep it that way. He wasn't here to destroy them. He was here to make them rethink their orders. With another precise maneuver, Nyx disabled the 3rd ship, leaving only 1 cruiser standing. The last warship didn't fire. It sat in the void, waiting, watching. Then, after a long pause, it turned and fled. The battle was over. A new understanding. The wreckage of the disabled Dominion ships drifted in the void, engines dark, systems frozen. Damien sat breathing heavily, his hands clenched as he processed what had just happened. He had won, not just against the Dominion, against himself, against the part of him that had been trained to destroy. You did not kill them, Nyx murmured. Damien smirked. No, I didn't. Why? Because killing them wouldn't solve anything, he said simply. I want them to go back and report what happened here. I want them to tell their superiors that I'm not running anymore, that I'm not hiding. He leaned forward, that I'm free. A long silence. Then, for the first time, Damien thought he felt approval. Not spoken, not forced, just acceptance. Understood, Nyx said quietly. Damien exhaled, slumping back against the ship's seat. He had no idea where he was going next. But for the first time in a long time, he didn't care. Because for once, he wasn't alone. Nyx wasn't just a ship anymore. It was his partner. And together, they were unstoppable. Epilogue. The road ahead. The Dominion fleet was gone. Damien and Nyx drifted into deep space, the wreckage of the battle fading behind them. They had won. But this was just the beginning. As long as he flew with Nyx, the galaxy would never stop hunting him. The Dominion would never stop looking for him. But that didn't matter. Because now, for the first time in years, he had something worth fighting for. Damien smirked as he reached for the ship's interface. All right, Nyx, he murmured. Let's see what's out there. The ship hummed in response, its engines roaring to life. And together, they disappeared into the stars.